Hi guys, and welcome back to Hypershare Tutorials. Thank you for tuning in. As you've seen from the beginning of the video, today we're going to be covering the crouch. Now, before we go ahead and start with the crouch tutorial, I just want to make sure you guys have the right animations attached. If you have not, please go ahead and do so. I did leave a download link to the animations or a text to tell you what animations are needed for Mixamo. So if you haven't downloaded those and attached them to your player, please do so now, because you're going to need it for these tutorials. So let's have a look at what we're going to do today. So our player has a character controller, as you can see. The character controller has two properties which I'm interested in. It's the center and the height. Now the center, I'm interested in the Y, and in the height, I'm interested in the height itself. Currently our height for our character controller is 1.89, and we want to reduce this down to about 0.8. Okay, so it kind of matches a crouch height. And as for the Y position, we want to decrease that to about 0.4. Don't go any lower than that, because it could end up actually falling to the ground. So 0.45 to 4 is good height. Okay, so that is what the crouch height can look like, and that's what we're aiming for. So I'm just going to quickly undo that. So let's go ahead and crack on with that. So let's open up our script in Visual Studios. Okay, so I've loaded up in Visual Studios now, and let's start creating the variables that we need. So first of all, I'm just going to make a header. To do so, you put two square brackets with header typed in, and then two open brackets like so, and two speech marks. And I'm going to call this crouch system. Alright, and now I'm going to start defining the variables we need. So the first one I'm going to need is public bool is crouching, and the next one I'm going to need is player crouch. Okay, and that's the two booleans we need. Next, let's make the floats that are required. Public float. We need to get a reference to our character's height, so char height. Next one is going to be last position character controller, and then we're going to need a new position character controller, and I need a reference for actually a blank variable which will get reference for the height, so I'm going to mark that as H. Okay, and I need a variable called return up time. This is to make sure the gravity has enough time to come back on, so it doesn't fall the character through the ground. And crouch key timer. I think that's all we need for now. So let's go ahead into our awake function. Let me just zoom into the code for you a bit, because I know sometimes it's zoomed out quite a bit, so that should be okay. And the first one I'm going to say is char height is going to be equals to our player controllers dot height. Okay, so this is your character controller's height. Simple as, nothing else. In the update function, I've already added the height to be equals to H, so H to be equal to height. So put H equals character height. That's just going to set the character controller's height to H. New height I'm going to set to 0.45 is the height that we want to set the character controller to when we press C, and I forgot to add that into the variables over here. So new height, please, just over here, like so. Okay, let's go ahead and actually start coding this. So the first thing you want to do is you want to add a new comment. Okay, and I'm going to put this as crouch system. Alright, that's fine. And we're going to make a if statement. And in here I'm going to say input dot get key apologies open bracket key code dot C, two closing brackets, and your open braces like so. That's a capital C, by the way, sorry, key code like so. And a capital K. keycode.c. Right, inside here is where the interesting stuff happens. So inside here I'm going to say player controller dot height equals to I haven't actually got a variable for that, so I'm going to put a new one, and let's call this before this one. So put a little comma and put this char new height like so, and we're going to come to object function and we're going to set char new height to equals to 8 like so. So that's the new height we want to change it to. That's the original height, that's the new height. So let's go back into new height. There we go, and put char new height right here. Okay, so that's going to be the new height once we press our C key. We're going to check is crouching, and we're going to say is equals to true because we're holding down the C key. Player crouch equals true, and then lastly we're going to set the player center. So player controller dot center equals a new vector 3 open bracket. This player controller dot center x can remain the same, so we're just going to get reference to that, but the y we won't change, so I'm going to put nh in here. It's the new height for the character controller, and z-axis can remain the same, so player controller dot center dot x, sorry, dot z. Let's save that. And also for now, for testing, I'm going to set the gravity to 0. Okay, just so we can test this out. Okay, and I want to quickly change something. It kind of mixes names up here. So new height, it shouldn't be that, it's new center height, NCH. So let's go up here and change that. So NCH and NCH. There we go. Right, so let's go back into Unity and let's see what happens. Okay, we are back in Unity and our script has compiled. Just double check this is recording. It is. So what do we want to see? So when this loads, we're going to see these variables auto-populate, and we're going to see this change. So let's just quickly do one thing. I'm just going to drag this screen over here so we can see it real time. Okay, I'm going to run the game, and I want to see what happens to the variables, and I want to see what happens when we press C. So as you can see, H is now equals to 1.89, which is the character controller's height. New center height is 0.45, which we set in the script. Return up time is currently 0, and crouch key time is 0. That's fine for now. Last position char and new position char we might not use, but if we do, we'll set that in a minute. And char new height is 0.8. So char new height should be the new height once we press C, and NCH will replace the center height for the character controller when we press C. So if I press C, let's see what happens. There we go. Because I turn the gravity off, we can test it like this, okay? So as you can see, height has now become 0.8 on the character controller and 0.45 on the center. Good. So we know that's working. So let's go and stop this. Let's go back into our Visual Studios. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an else statement in here. Okay, we want something to happen if we let go of the key. So I'm going to say player controller dot center equals new height, sorry, new vector 3 open bracket, and we're going to set this to player controller dot center dot x, which will remain the same. Y is going to change, so y needs to be the last position it currently was, and currently we don't capture that, so that's what we need to do as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to use where is it gone, this row over here. Okay, and we're going to capture the old height center in that one, so the center Y. So I'm going to come down into update, and I'm going to say last position char C is equals to player controller dot center dot Y. Okay, and in fact I don't want to put that in the update, I'll put it in the start function. Okay, there you go, and put it in there. And then we can actually delete the new char height because we don't need it. It's because we're using the NCH for that one. That's perfectly fine. Right, so we're going to come back down here, and inside here I'm going to put last position character controller, and where it says for the Z axis player controller dot center dot C, and close it off like so. We also want to set the is crouching to be false once we let go of our C key, and for now we're going to test it with this, and once this works we'll implement the rest of the code. So let's go back into Unity and let's see what happens. Right, we're back in Unity, let's run the game and let's see what happens. Right, so if I press the C key and hold it down, we'll go to our new position. If I let go of it, let's see what happens. Right, so the character controller jumps back up to its 0.89 in center, but the height hasn't changed. That's because we didn't set the height. So let's go back into our script. Let's just stop the game really quickly, and let's add one condition over here. We can just copy this here. Okay, and what we're going to say is the height is now going to be equals to h, which is a reference which held our original height. So as you see over here, character height is going to be equals to the player's height, and h is going to hold that value for us. So let's go back into Unity and let's test that out now. Okay, it's finished compiling, so let's run it and let's see what happens. So while it loads, right, if I hold on C, the character controller changes to 0.8 and to 0.45, let go, 0.89 to 189. Absolutely perfect. It's exactly what we wanted. Okay, currently our gravity is turned off, so we can't jump, so that's fine. We know that part's working now. I'm happy with that. Okay, let's just quickly set one thing. Return up time I'm going to set to 0. Let's just put it to 1. And also, before we do anything, let's just test something. Did crouch key timer change when we held down the C key? So no, it didn't, because it's not setting it for some reason. That's because we haven't put the code in for that, that's why. So over here we're going to say crouch key timer equals 1, like so. Okay, now we're going to do a safety check which lets the gravity have enough time to come back up so it doesn't fall us through the ground. And in order to do that, all I'm going to do is put an if statement down here. If crouch key timer is less than or equals to 0, we want to do something. Okay, and inside here all I'm going to say is, I think I have my invert key on, don't I? No I don't, that's fine. Crouch key timer is going to be equals to 0, and then player crouch is going to be equals to false, and close in curly brace. Right, we need to make a couple of changes. So around this player height I want to put an if statement, and I'm going to say inside here player crouch equals true. and closing bracket and open curly braces, delete one of the brace and put it underneath here, put a double equal sign in here. Apologies, I do have my invert key turned on, I knew it. That's fine, so that's done there. That gets enabled there, that's good stuff. Okay, let's go back into Unity and let's see what happens. Oh no, and we do forget one thing here. So in the else function we want to put down crouch key timer minus equals time dot delta time times that by the return up time. So how fast we want the key count to count down so this can become true. So let's save this and go back into Unity. Alright, we are back and I have loaded the game. So let's see what happens now. I'm pressing C and let it go at C. There you go. You can see it works. So the character controller is going up and down. You can see the player heights also changing. Okay, good stuff. Now what I want to do is I want to adjust this timer here. So I'm going to set this to 4 for a second and see what happens. Okay, seems like it's working. I have the player selected, so you might see some lag on your end. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Don't mind the going through the flow at the moment. We'll fix that in the next tutorial because we need to make some amendment to some stuff in order to fix that stuff, okay? But for now that works. As you can see, the player is crouching definitely. And it goes back up once it's ready. We could try and play with the values. So what we could do in fact is go back into Visual Studios and change the new center height to 5.5 for example. Let's see if that makes a difference for the character falling from the ground. Okay, let's have a look. Right, 5.5 is too low as you can see. Yeah, so yeah, it's just a matter of playing with the variables. So let's just set this to, I don't know, let's say 0.38. I want to see if that's going to fall into the ground or not, because the lower value it goes, sometimes it collides with the ground and it falls straight through. Okay, so let's see if that works. There we go. That's perfect. Good stuff. Now we don't want the player to be able to walk once we're crouching. We want to use the crouch animations. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop the game, come back into Visual Studios, and let's go straight down to our movement section, which is here.